Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. Reunion with old elementary school bully. I'm only 15 now, so it really wasn't that long ago. But I always think about this incident at least a couple times a month. There was this kid. Let's call him Chad. That was enrolled in my elementary school first grade class. Chad was your typical Chad. Although I had to admit he was relatively good-looking. Blonde, blue eyes, the whole lot. However, Chad was a complete jerk to me right off the bat. About a week into him being enrolled and I was given the name, Bushy Eyebrows, by Chad. He would make fun of everything I was into and everything I did. Purposely hit me in the head with dodgeballs during gym class. Whenever we had to work on a project together he would belittle me and end up slacking off. I had Chad in my class from first grade to fifth grade. So as the years went on I have gotten used to his constant ridiculing and not really think much of it since, despite being an absolute jerk, it became apparent by around third grade that he was struggling with himself. He started acting weird at picture day in third grade. We had to stand in line to wait for pictures and let it be known that my mom is serious about picture day. She wouldn't dare let my picture be taken in my usual jeans and brightly colored sweaters that I was oddly obsessed with. So I turned up at school that day looking fancier than usual and I received a lot of compliments that day on my dress and hairdo. As I was standing in line for pictures I saw Chad, whom I assume already had taken his picture, kind of standing off to the corner of the room alone. This was unlike Chad, as he would usually be obnoxiously loud with his friends. He also had this pouty sad look on his face. Chad was somewhat of a troublemaker but he never cried. Ever. Which is saying a lot for a third grader. So keep that in mind. Anyway, right now it seemed like he was on the verge of tears. I tried my best not to stare at him in that state but I would glance over pretty often. During this I saw a group of girls who were also in my class yet I wasn't really close friends with, running over and nagging him about something. The room was loud since tons of kids were in the room for pictures so I couldn't hear what they were talking about exactly, but what I am sure of is that I saw Chad point at me and a few seconds later the group of girls were running up to me repeating my name. I asked what they needed and one of them exclaimed, "Chad thinks you look pretty." I was absolutely dumbfounded at this as Chad has literally never shown an ounce of kindness towards me before this. So I asked him to explain. Long story short, apparently the girls asked him who he thought which girl looked the prettiest in the room and he told them I was. I looked over towards him and he was hiding his face in his knees. This obviously hung on me for a little while but I brushed it off after some time. A couple weeks later I'm in the office to be sent home early, as I had an allergic reaction in art class, and was waiting for my mom to come pick me up. Chad walks into the office since apparently he was written up for misbehavior, which was common when it came to Chad, and had to speak with the counselor. I guess I thought by that point on Chad would be a little nicer towards me. But boy was I wrong. He gave me a weird look and told me something along the lines of, "What the heck are you looking at? Bushy eyebrows?" Needless to say that his sudden mood swings confused me. This be nice be mean cycle went on for a couple more years and I fell into the old habit of ignoring Chad. Fifth grade rolls around and this is the time I really learn more about Chad's home life. One day Chad is being a jerk, per usual, and the teacher threatens to call his dad. "If you don't stop talking I'll have to call your dad." And for some reason, Chad loses it at this. He starts begging our teacher to not call his dad and that he would behave. Over the next few months I started learning a few things. You see, Chad's dad was usually always at work. And he didn't care for Chad much. So by the time middle school rolled around I just assumed he had classic daddy issues and took it out on me. Well, I was in 7th grade. Going into 8th soon, and Chad turns out to be in my science class. And the second he sees me he pulls me into the hallway. This was before the class started, where everyone would usually chat and get settled in. And for the first time in my life I see Chad crying. Sobbing actually. Turns out his relationship with his dad was way worse than I assumed, and while yes, his dad was busy with work most of the time, the times he was home he would verbally abuse Chad's mother directly in front of him. He taught Chad that boys can't be weak, can't cry, can't like pink. He was one of those dads. He apologized to me and said he didn't feel any dislike towards me. He just didn't know how to approach me at the time. He said he ended up moving and now lives with his mother, who seems much more open-minded than his dad. At least, and that's the last time I saw Chad. I'm in my freshman year right now, and Chad moved to a bigger town close to mine last I heard. I wonder what he's up to and how he's doing often. Anyway, I just wanted to share this story as a late-night thought. I know it's kind of long, but I miss Chad. He didn't deserve that kind of parenting from his father. End of story. Next story. Lost friendship. I've debated sharing this story for a long time since it happened years ago, back around 2006-2007. I was still a teenager when all this happened and living in Dun, NC. I was close friends with a guy named Dillian. We did everything together growing up. We hung out after school at his house, rode around in his go-kart. We even hung out at the dirt hill next door to his house, riding bikes up and down it and hanging out with the other neighborhood kids. I lived directly down the street from him, so it was easy to get together and hang out. When we got to be teenagers, things started to change, however. He had a trampoline in his backyard we would always be jumping on. One day we were wrestling on it, and one thing led to another. We started rubbing on each other but never went further. One day we were next door at his dad's house and we were wrestling when his mom walked in and caught us. She was furious and said, "You need to leave now and go home," and I did. Our friendship was really awkward after that. We hardly hung out anymore, and we didn't speak at school or on the bus. One day though, I was out riding my bike around the neighborhood and spotted Dillian with a couple of guys on the dirt hill hanging out. He saw me and called me over, and when I got there I saw they were really tall guys, slightly buff, one wearing a leather tank top jacket. I made small talk with them until Dillian asked me, "Have you had any women lately?" I said no, to which he then asked me, "Have you had any lately?" to which I said no, and then he asked me if I had any guys lately, to which I also said no. He then asked me if I wanted some, to which I said yes. Him and his friends led me into the woods behind the dirt hill and acted like they were about to undress when Dillian suddenly spat at me, and him and the other guys ran off, leaving me behind. When I got back to the dirt hill, they were walking back to his house laughing. I hopped on my bike and sped home, upset and about to cry. I was so embarrassed. I didn't speak to Dillian for a while after that. One day I was sitting at the dirt hill alone in my thoughts when I saw him and another guy named Josh I knew from high school walking towards me from his house. I didn't say anything much. They tried to make small talk with me, and eventually Dillian brought up the same question as before, whether I had any women lately, and I said no as usual. He asked me again if I had any guys lately too, which I said no again. He asked me again if I wanted some, and stupidly I said yes. As soon as I said that, him and Josh walked away laughing. It was only then that I realized that Josh had his flip phone out the entire time recording our conversation. I was so upset and embarrassed I just went straight home. Thankfully me and my family moved from there not long after. I never heard or saw him again. I tried reaching out to him on Facebook and MySpace years later, mainly because I wanted to make peace with what happened between us, but I never heard back from him. Some part of me hates him for how he treated me, and another part blames myself for letting things get that far, and another part of me misses the good times we had growing up, just being friends and hanging out before everything went south. Last I heard, HES living a playboy lifestyle in Florida. I just wanna say I forgive him for what happened in the past and hope he finds happiness. This story was 100% true, and if you wanna hear more personal stories but more optimistic, please let me know. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.